Yes, I'm Shantae, and today is the Itch FM debate show, and I am joined by
Tony D, President's Poet, Don't Flop Champ, UK Hip Hop all day.
Shay D, representing Lyrically Challenged.
Big Ted, just representing hip hop.
Mystro, aka MysDiggi, Natural Born Spitters.
Reveal, the Gully Irani, President's Poets, West London.
Tony Black, Roadtown Music.
Now we've got all the intros out the way. The big question is UK hip hop dead?
Yeah, right. No, it ain't dead. It ain't dead. It's live and kicking. As you can see, with Itch FM coming back, with a whole bunch of like new artists coming out. I'm sure Ted knows about, being a DJ. I don't think it's dead, but I think there might be people who think it is because we might not be in that golden era again, like what a lot of people think. But it's definitely not dead, and I think there's a lot more to come and to happen as long as everyone kind of keeps the right head on their shoulders.
So if it's not dead, why do people question it?
I think even just the term UK hip hop, that in itself, it explains a bit of it, because I think a lot of like the new school stuff, there's this whole thing about where does grime fit into everything. A lot of the new stuff, they're calling it UK rap. Yeah. Because I think UK hip hop, it slightly has that connotation of, I don't want to be like bad about it, but it's kind of like the sort of depressing music or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It comes with certain connotations. So, for me, the really interesting thing, it kind of goes back to what is UK hip hop, because for me, it's not even something that was just exported from America. Because if you go right back to like the original stages when everything was starting, we had the breeding ground for hip hop the same way that America did. So even when Kool Herc went to America from Jamaica, some of the people that he was listening to, like I think they was called I-Roy or E-Roy, some of the sound systems, they was the contemporaries. We had first generation sound systems that came over from Jamaica to South London. And in the UK, we had stuff like the poll tax riots, we had like Thatcher's Britain, we had punk music. So Malcolm McLaren's girlfriend was Vivienne Westwood, and she designed some of the outfits that Africa Bambaataa and them were wearing. So there's this whole sort of back and forth thing. And then in the UK, we kind of developed the whole from sound system culture, drum and bass, jungle, which kind of became garage, which became grime. So we got kind of these sort of diverging lines of like different things. For me, it all comes under the umbrella of spitting, lyricism, UK hip hop, UK rap, whatever you want to call it. But I think we kind of got into sort of labeling stuff a bit too much lately. So that's why maybe some people think what they term UK hip hop is dead.
Personally, I always take offense when people say UK hip hop. Like for me, there are just standards in hip hop. You're either good or you're whack, and those are internationally recognized standards. Like Usain Bolt doesn't do Jamaican running, he doesn't run a Jamaican 100 meters. Cutmaster Swift doesn't do UK scratching, you understand? Like standards are standards. So when it comes to hip hop, as I say, either whack or you're good. And I've traveled around the country endless times over the years, and I've seen incredible b-boys, I've seen DJs, I've seen artists, I've seen, all sorts that just represent hip-hop, full stop. So this kind of UK hip-hop thing is like, I don't know what that is. I've never, ever, ever been a fan of calling anything UK hip-hop.
All right, so when you hear hip-hop from France, what do you call it?
It's hip-hop. I might not be able to understand it necessarily, but I can hear it and judge it and know whether it's decent or not. If the beats are tight, if the guys flow, and someone like Solar, you can hear, Supreme NTM or, those kind of artists from when I was kind of, touching a little bit of French hip hop. I could hear what was decent. And
but there is a certain vibe as well. I think you're completely right. I agree with this whole thing that there's hip hop and there's levels. Yeah. So I think it's because it's hip hop, it's all about show and prove. So even when it was like I was younger, I was on the battle circuit or whatever, if we was clashing with American people, the mentality was like, bruv, I will just outspit you, innit? Yeah, it's not even about like, what type of thing you're coming with. But then when you get into particulars, even when you talk about hip hop, say in America, say the New York hip hop, it's got a different sound than the West Coast hip hop, which it's got different samples, the Southern hip hop. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with kind of saying we've got this hip hop sound.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think because it's just like, that's why I was getting back to that whole, if I hear Dutch hip hop or hip hop that's made in Deutschland, you know what I mean? I'm going to be like, that's what it is. Like, so I feel like it's just a label so people know where it's from, as opposed to saying is whether it's good or bad. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same with dubstep. I remember being in New Zealand and these guys were schooling me on dubstep. Yeah, like, and they were going, yeah, this guy's from LA. You can hear in the sound, this is LA dubstep, or you can hear this is like where. I was like, right, I didn't even realize, but that's how you can differentiate and tell somebody is by going, yo, this is from here or this is from there. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think that UK hip hop, like the label, might have got that kind of.
It comes with stigma.
Yeah, there is a bit of stigma.
Diversity is a good thing.
When I was raised in hip hop, this is early 80s. So there was no differentiation between, what moves people were doing. So when I was watching Pogo as a B-boy, I was comparing him to what Rocksteady Crew were doing. Not on he's a UK. Well, I just never ever grew up like that. And I think too many people, especially the media, kind of used it as a way to separate everything and box it off and say, okay, these UK rappers, this UK, this, and not putting it on the pedestal so that it was compared properly. It was like in its own little box, and okay, well, yeah, as you said, there's a kind of depressing element to it, and why are the clothes so dirty, and why are those subjects so boring, and why doesn't anybody dance, and why is anybody happy, and all of those kind of connotations, the UK hip-hop, as opposed to it just being hip-hop and letting people just do what they do and set the standards they're going to set and whatever trends. It just kind of always people want to talk about this UK hip-hop, and I'm like, so Ted, what do you think of UK hip-hop? I'm like, Jesus, come on, man. I tell people it's healthy. I go around the country, I see people living it, breathing it, and doing it. So obviously it's in great shape, but people don't want to hear that. They want to hear you say, oh, well, the thing with UK hip-hop is... Shut up.
I think Miles touched on something when he said about the dubstep thing, yeah? Because there's certain dubstep rhythms that I've heard that they're just so London. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful thing in music. It's like diversity where like you connect with different like locales and regions and you understand something about the mentality of it. I fully accept that. Yeah.
I feel like it's the intention behind what is said. Like, for example, it's kind of where it stems from. An example is Industry 1. They did a global hip hop documentary, and Denmark has a really big grime scene. And believe it or not, they call it like Dutch grime or like wherever it's from, but we don't really call it UK grime. We call it grime, but that's because it kind of stems and was born here. But because hip hop was it was born in America, so it kind of feels like wherever it stemmed from, they don't put that label in front of it, but when it gets developed somewhere else, we add it because we've taken it on. So it's two intentions. The first one being UK hip hop, because we're stating that that's the sound and that's where it's developed after it's been kind of bred and made somewhere. And at the same time, there's the whole UK hip hop to distinguish that vibe, the whole bobble tracksuit drinking crew that we're talking about.
I slightly think little tiny bit differently, yeah, because I think that there's this whole argument for hip hop was being done in the UK before hip hop was labeled as hip hop, yeah. That's going into a lot more like a bit of an abstract area, yeah. But what I mean when I say that is I think the main differentiation between like when you're talking about French hip hop or the hip hop is the language, yeah. So in England, yeah, we've got the British accent, or in the UK we've got the British accent, which I think was a kind of breakthrough thing. When you start going back and looking at the history of hip hop and like the first MCs in the UK and stuff like that, there was two schools in it. So there was like people that were kind of emulating the b-boy thing that was going on in New York, and they were doing it to a really, really high level. And there was people that were coming out of the sort of DJ and sound system culture, and the accent, I think, was the key thing. And I think that with the UK thing, I'm so weird about, like, I don't even want to call it UK hip hop or UK rap. It's because I'm proud of it. That's why I want to put the label on it. I don't want to put the label on it as a category to be like, it sounds like this. But I think there is an argument to say that hip hop is such a universal thing that it originated in America the same way that jiu-jitsu was taken to Brazil. And the Gracie family switched it up to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which was different because their body types were different. So they incorporated certain moves that were different. In the UK, we incorporated certain things into the mix where it didn't have that label of hip hop on it. But to me, it was really funny because there's been debates been raging for ages. And the other day, I remember about a couple months back, Wiley was tweeting something about me and Dizzy always said when we was doing grime that this is the UK's hip hop, this is our version of hip hop. And so that kind of, to me, all these debates about grime versus hip hop, it's just different names for the same thing. Like when they say,
For me, I never really heard I don't like this is our equivalent of that.
Yeah.
Where we're saying it's a global thing, I only hear the term UK hip hop if we're talking about it's a regional thing. We're saying Dutch hip hop is hip hop from there, and Denmark grime is grime from Denmark. But when you're talking about the music, it's grime or it's hip hop. I don't like it because I feel like it puts us in some sort of a shadow. Like what we do is never compared. It can never be compared to what's done in America.
Yeah, no, I fully hear that, but I mean, when I say it from a proud perspective.
Of course,
yeah?
of course.
I say it not from like, yeah, this is UK hip hop, man, and this is UK hip hop, and like on that kind of a thing. Yeah, I'll say it like if I was over in the States, like I've been over to States and been to open mics and that, and everyone was calling me London. Do you know what I mean? Like over there, they was like, hey, yo, London.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I'll go around with a big cap that says London. I've got West London, my snows, I've got the bling now, E-Road.
Got the tat. The tat on the right.
Nah, Muslim, no tap.